Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Beach Advisory Committee on January 12th. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from the November 16th meeting that were distributed. I think, Chaz, you had a correction?
A really important correction. On the top of page 3, it's quoting me as saying that there's 1 million people using the road. I think we should change that to many.
Okay. Sounds like a good correction.
The AI isn't just perfect when it's translated.
And there's 2 names to be corrected.
Okay.
Gasik, Don Gasik, Gasink is the correct way, I believe. And Mary Gickness, and the correct way is Giknis.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other corrections? Okay, is there a motion to approve them as corrected?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. I don't know, I'll call here in the room first, and then we can go out to Zoom, so please. Okay, there's no one here. Is there anyone on Zoom?
We have 11 attendees, no hands raised.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think we'll go to old business first, and I think one of the things that's been on this agenda for way too long is the idea of commercial activity on the beach. And I just want John Dykstra to give us an update on where we stand. And I'd just like to say thank you to John and to Mary Beth for your work in negotiating this situation. We're in a much better place.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's rare that I've been able to say anything other than we have no comments because we are in litigation. But, or litigation, or at least in talk, but that has resolved. It resolved itself without litigation. We were able to resolve it as a consent agreement, which is something that the board is able to enter into when it's this kind of an issue of a non-conforming use. It's not something that's really handled by zoning. That's rather an issue actually of land use. It's actually the use of the property as opposed to the physical position of the property, which would be the zoning side, which I learned this week. But at any rate, we have established a consent agreement by which the Tides agrees to cease all commercial activity on the beach. And that is all commercial activity. There will be no attendance on the beach. The only thing that will be on the beach is what is within their purview of their 25 feet as a beach use agreement signer. They will be able to store not more than 53 chairs. They are folding chairs, and there will be small umbrellas associated with that. And their guests may take those chairs and those umbrellas and walk down to the beach, place them up themselves, and then return them. And that is the agreement. They can also store watercraft in that 25 feet, but again, there will be no service by the Tides employees to bring those watercraft to and from the water line. In return, we were able to reinstate their ability to serve on the front lawn. So we will have beverage and food service. It is limited to not more than 12 seats that would be served commercially. There can be more seats, but they could not be available for service. The other piece of note is that we were able to, and they were willing, and we are grateful to continue the public access to their first floor restroom, which does allow an important resource for folks on the beach. In return, we have allowed them to maintain the 4 parking spots, which are parallel to the Tides, just as you had turned on to Belvedere. So those, that was the quid pro quo, and I think it was a good compromise for all. So I think those are the main points. It took a number of meetings. We had an up and down roller coaster, but I'm very pleased with where we ended up.
John, can I ask a quick question? Maybe I misunderstood one thing. On the front lawn service, is there actual weight service happening down on the lawn area?
Oh,
or
yes, yes, as it was.
Oh, I thought it was that they could take stuff and bring it
No,
out
no,
there if
no,
they
no,
wanted
no.
to.
There
All
will
right,
be,
that's
there will
more
be
than I thought.
service on the lawn for
Okay.
both alcohol and food, but not more than 12 seats being served any given time.
Okay.
There's also takeout food reinstored, not takeout beverage, but takeout food. So that's also a part of the agreement. So they will be offering takeout for the dinners, which is a good thing.
Are there any other questions from people that are here or people on Zoom on the tides?
No hands raised.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot, John.
Sure.
The next item on the agenda is the parking reconfiguration, and I think we started talking about this at the November meeting, and we agreed to continue it. You know, Pat Sousa, who's here, Wendy Bosley, myself and John, in conjunction with the police chief and the head of public works, have walked all of the 173 spots, and I think just to make sure everyone understands the framework here, under the beach use agreement, there was an agreement to have 173 spots for parking for people that are gonna use the beach. So this, whatever the solution is, it's 173 spots, no more, no less. I think some of the things that we looked at and realized needed to be addressed was just the need to clearly delineate each spot, because in the past, we've had big, long boxes that were perhaps for 4 or 8 cars, and I think a lot of times people parked in the middle, and then we didn't really get the same number of spots in there. One of the other things that we've tried to address in our proposal is the desire to have some taxpayer-only spots for people that are residents that can come and use the beach and have some kind of preferred parking rather than just giving up on coming to the beach if they don't come at 8 in the morning. And some of the issues that we are trying to address is, one being the degradation of the marsh along Dyke Road between the bridge and Route 9, where some of the parking there is completely off the pavement, and therefore it's really compressing the marsh, which is not a good thing. One of the other challenges is the turning radius at the corner of Bellwood and Kings Highway, which, you know, I've seen people do like an 18-point turn to get around that corner when there's a car parked there. And then there was some other safety and space concerned on some of the other existing spaces. So I think we presented a compromise, a solution which is gonna require compromise. I don't think there's a perfect solution no matter what we did, but we showed this to people last time. It's been up on the website since November, and just to kind of briefly summarize it, and I think John will be able to share it graphically, but I'll just give you kind of a high-level overview. What we tried to do was to replace the spots that we're losing on Dyke Road, is adding some spots to the west of Dyke Road along Kings Highway. And really, the idea is to try and make some of those spaces to the west of Dyke Road be resident/taxpayer only, and that we think that'll cut down on some of the traffic going down and looking to there, because there are not a lot of spots to the west end. I think some of the other changes acknowledge some of the safety and reality of actual spaces, and you know, the idea here is we would like to have a proposal that we can make a recommendation to the select board for implementation this summer in terms of trying to address some of these issues. So I'm going to turn it over to John maybe, and just kind of, if you can kind of walk through visually so people know what we're talking about, that'd be great.
Sure, you want to walk, okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as Pam was saying, we lost 6 spots along Dyke. This is the area just beyond the bridge. The road is wide enough to have people be off the pavement, but it narrows precipitously after about 6 spots, and it's just too narrow. We were getting in trouble with DEP in terms of impacting the marsh. So those 6 needed to be relocated. And then we had 3 over on New Bedford Road. There's a question, this either be 3 or 2. It depends on exactly how this is going to map out. But there's at least 2 spots that needed to be relocated from there. The reason being there was a home built. So those spots need to go, need to be removed. And then the final was mentioned right at the end of Bellwood. And these are kind of curious. What I'm showing there had to do with the count. This was originally shown as 3 spots, and you really can't see it there, but the line is about here. There's really only 2.5 spots. So we removed the half spot and calling that 2. So there were a few of those as well. And then here's the one that's on Bellwood. It's a spot that was sitting right here. This is the new construction here, the old Pingree House, for those of us that have been around for a while. Maybe some know it older than I, so that was, but this was the turn, so that was removed. So to compensate for that, what we have done is to add spots that would use the Dyke Road entrance to the beach as their primary access. And there would be 3 spots as you are turning left onto Kings Highway. There would be 3 spots here. And then there are 8 spots as you turn right heading west on Kings Highway that would line up along this section. And these are such that we're able to get the majority off the pavement. There's still going to be probably about 3 feet that are on the pavement. But the road is wide enough for us to maintain 17 feet of travel passage so that we can have that with some degree of safety. So that is our plan.
Okay, thanks a lot, John. I guess I'd like to open it up to comments from the committee here, as well as Pat, who's been involved in all of it. So I'll start along the table here. We'll have comments, and then we can open it up. Okay.
Pam, this issue came up at our last meeting while the safety committee was in the course of talking about New Bedford Road. So this so it overlapped with our discussion of that. But we looked at this, and we're the safety group, we're not the parking group. So we incredibly much appreciate the struggle you guys have had to try to figure out the solution to this problem. But the spaces along the west part of Kings Highway gave us pause, just because that's a part of the road where there are no sidewalks and an incredible amount of foot and bicycle traffic all summer long, with people from that whole end of the beach come down to the store or wherever else they're going at Goose Rocks. And so so that led us to not support putting those spots there, because the road is just so narrow. And those of us who live down there experience that and our guests every day. So that doesn't mean we've got, our suggestion for that was to take advantage of narrowing New Bedford Road traffic space to add more spots along there, even though they may be way out New Bedford Road. It's a longer walk, but would be used infrequently. And I understand that the Director of the Public Works thinks those may not be workable, but I guess our concerns about the safety are such that we would still recommend not putting them there and spending a little more time to find some other spots somewhere. I don't know if that's possible, but I don't see how we can, we talked about this. I've got 2 of my committee members here, by the way, Tom Adler and Art LeMay, along with Barry, who's on the committee. And just don't see how we can support doing that. So
Okay.
that's our view. But,
Okay.
and there may be other views, and I know Barry's here as well, and I know I talked to Bill about this earlier today.
And I would like to comment, but I think it would be really helpful if we asked the gentlemen who are on the committee, and
Yeah.
Tom is a recognized expert in this field.
Yep.
And I think his insight that he brought to Chaz and myself
Okay.
is particularly insightful.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, let's open it up. Please come up to the microphone and identify yourself. And then, sorry, Don, did you have something to say?
Hi, I'm Tom Adler, and I live currently on Community House Road in Kennebunkport. And I've been involved with the Traffic Safety Committee with Barry and Art originally, and now with Chaz joining our ranks for about 4.5 years. And over those 4.5 years, one of our primary areas of concern, in fact, has been the West End and the Kings Highway along that section, being one of the few sections of road that has high volumes of pedestrian and bicycle traffic, along with no direct accommodation for those pedestrian and bicycles. And the fact that the road is serving both highway traffic, a good amount of highway traffic at speeds that we've seen are greater than what would be desirable and what are posted in that area, along with the pedestrian and bicycles in that area, makes it a difficult situation. We understand that there are compromises involved here. We always, as a traffic safety and planning expert, I always hate to see the compromise being on the side of against traffic safety. And the concern here is both the general accommodation of the traffic, the car traffic and pedestrians and bicycles, as well as the kind of unusual movements that will be caused by the addition of this parking, and particularly U-turns and three-point turns being made in that area. There's a reason why you see no U-turn signs all over the place, and that is because it is widely known to be one of the most dangerous maneuvers that's made on highways. And combining that here with the high amount of pedestrian and bicycle traffic creates a situation that I think creates an inordinate risk to public safety, and certainly not something that I would ever recommend as a traffic engineer, and I think results in an unfortunate compromise. Now, Chaz and I were talking about this earlier, and the question is, how would you measure safety impacts? And the fortunate thing is that accidents are relatively rare, and it may be that you could do this and go a year, 5 years, 10 years without an incident, but going against traffic engineering guidelines at a macro scale has generally been shown to increase risk. And I think the increase in risk here would be an unfortunate increase, since we've, although there's a lot of pedestrian bicycle traffic, we've been able to operate, it's been operated relatively safely. There have been few incidents over the past, at least the past 5 years that I'm aware of. And I think it would be unfortunate to compromise that with this addition. So those are just my comments. Be happy to Art or...
Tom, would you give us your little history of your work background?
Sure. I have a PhD from MIT in transportation systems. I was a professor at Dartmouth College for 10 years, teaching traffic engineering and transportation planning. And I founded now a national company of about 120 employees that does transportation planning and engineering.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
So my name is Art LeMay. I don't have any kind of credentials like Tom, but I can say that next month, as of next month, my wife and I will have been at Goose Rocks Beach for 26 years. And I can tell you I love the beach, I love the town, but for the last 10 years, I've been extraordinarily concerned witnessing drivers, walkers, dog walkers, cyclists around exactly where you want to put 8 spaces. And this is frankly why I started working with Barry 4.5 years ago, because of the speedsters that we've now documented with the speeding lights. And anybody that walks in that area would think it's a crazy idea to put more blockage on the street, because people that are walking on both sides, sometimes on the wrong sides if they're supposed to be walking, they're walking on both sides. And cars, trucks, contractors with trailers are whipping it around the corner, coming down, and it's a nightmare. So I have very strong feelings. I mean, this is, it's just a disaster in the making. So I strongly oppose it, and I have to tell you, I'm very concerned about Goose Rocks Beach because of the concerns that we've expressed about speeding cars and everything else that goes with the streets. It's a real problem. Very different than 26 years ago. Very different than 15 years ago. So I hope that this town does not make the wrong decision and compromise safety in order to move some parking spots around. I don't have a solution, not my job. But I surely don't support making our community more safe, unsafe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Souza at Crescent Ave. I've been in Kennebunkport, Goose Rocks Beach since 2012. I'm now a full-time resident on Crescent Ave. And before that, I was on Belvedere Ave for 7 years. And you know what Belvedere Ave is. And I would like to thank this committee and also the Board of Selectmen for making an agreement with the tides. I was there when all this creep was happening. So it starts in this, to me, it starts in this committee. We bring our concerns to you, and then it goes to the Board of Selectmen. So thank you for any input any of you put into it. That aside, I'd like to talk a little bit because I was able to, I don't have credentials, as this gentleman does, but I do have credentials in healthcare and safety and radiation safety and public safety. I do have some. So safety to me is very important here at Goose Rocks Beach. I walk the beach a lot, and I do see a lot of what happens at the main beach area, because that's pretty much where I was located. So, as you all know, that part of the beach is extremely over-traffic, overwhelming, okay? I know you talk about the traffic going to the west of Dyke Road, but there is a lot of traffic going towards the main beach. So I was on this committee, I was given the opportunity, someone brought up about public safety, driving. I wanted to be on it. I wanted to help out, do what I can, because it's important to me. So when it came arise, I joined the committee for the parking. Figured this was maybe a way I could express my concerns. So as this committee, it's not committee, small, so I'm a little nervous. I don't like to get up and talk a lot. But as for this group that we had, which was Pam, John, myself, Wendy, and Kate, I think that we took a lot of consideration of how it affected people. And we had a lot to do. I mean, we had to validate all the parking. We did a lot of site walks. We reviewed a lot of the maps to look for other areas, whatever areas we could, because a lot of the roads are no parking. We engaged the police chief. He walked with us. He gave us ideas. He did measurements. I mean, we met with municipalities, all of them. We met with the Board of the town manager. We identified unsafe spots, that if there were any, and we did find a couple. We also looked to see, you know, as we were talking before, they talked about the erosion on the marsh on Dyke Road. We looked at that. We reviewed beach access. And most importantly, we kept the public safety of this entire community, the entire community, as a forefront. Not a piece of it, but how it affects the entire community. And that was most important to us. We knew that on some of our recommendation moves would have an impact that would not be favorable to all. We knew that was going to happen. For us, it was to find the best choice with the least impact while keeping public safety for the entire community, okay? I don't want to come across that we're not overlooking the concerns that are being brought up this evening. Absolutely not. They are valid concerns. But we have to think about how it is going to affect everybody as a whole. So some of the considerations that we took into advisement is we looked at how the people who presently park on Dyke Road, how is it going to affect them? Now, they actually right now have a 1/10 of a mile walk to the beach. Now it was going to be increased from 3/10 to almost a half a mile to the beach if we moved them over to New Bedford Road. That's a long walk, especially if you have kids and wagons and umbrellas. That's a long walk. So we're taking that away from the beachgoers. We're also taking away their access to public bathrooms, the store, and a direct access to a beach, which was directly in front of them. not going all the way, which was gonna be half a mile to the main beach if they went. Those are all things just for the beachgoers. Now, if we talk about how it was gonna impact the main beach area, the increase in the traffic that those 6 to 8 cars were gonna create on the main beach, which is already overpopulated and dangerous. I mean, the traffic is unbelievable there. I watch it, okay? People who park on Kings Highway do not walk on the sidewalks. You have to come and see it. People get out of their cars, they open the door, leaving the doors open, getting their wagons out, taking their kids out, and guess what? Walking directly on the street to the pathways. They're not gonna cross over and find a pathway. It happens all day long. I see people in tow with their wagons and their kids walking behind them. And I go, why aren't you using the sidewalks? So, I mean, I think adding just that little bit of traffic that's gonna now end up going through the main part of the beach again, which already, and you know this, turnarounds, 3-point turns, happen daily on that road. Many times, multiple times, now. Now you're gonna have people who are gonna park in, down in New Bedford, a half a mile, walking because now they have to drop their kids off and their wife off and all their stuff and do pickup and drops offs and do multiple turnarounds. So we're increasing it in an already overwhelming area. It doesn't make sense to me, or rather. And as far as biking, there's no biking on Kings Highway in that end. If you do, you're taking your life in your hands. That's why you see so many go down the west, which is me, because it's safer down there, okay? But you don't even ride a bike down Kings Highway by the main beach. You can't. And the drop-offs are unbelievable. It happens constantly all day long. So here's what I think the committee that we were on, what we did, we thought about, which was best to us and what was important was we don't want to increase the distance for the beachgoers that have an access now. Why are we gonna, we're charging them what they're doing, making them walk that far. How's it impacted? We don't want to increase traffic that's already heavily trafficked area. It has the least impact to the entire community. Both of them are going to impact this community, but which one causes the least impact is how we came up with that solution. At least that's the way I feel. So I want to thank you all for your time, and hopefully we can come to some type of conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
Sorry, Kate, did you have something I didn't do?
Yeah, couple of thoughts. Art and Tom, I couldn't agree with you more about the vast increase of people who live here as well as people who visit here. We first started coming to Goose Rocks Beach almost 40 years ago. We built our house pushing 30 years ago and have been living here full-time 11 years now, loving it. This beach is a treasure, but I've seen such enormous change from the more community-oriented beach that we had for the first I don't know how many years, even after we built our house. And I would say over the last 10, 15 years, the population of visitors, including people who come just maybe once to try it out, as opposed to in the past we had people who came back year after year, where they were seasonal, yes, but they were seasonal neighbors who had been here, coming here for a long time. We have a problem here. We only have so much parking and so many places to put it. If we've been told we need to protect the marsh better, the answer then is, well, where are the additional parking spaces going to go? There isn't a whole lot more place where we can put anything along the east end of Kings Highway. We're already adding some more along the area closer to Dyke Road. And going farther up New Bedford, I gather there's some issue about being able to do that, but that kind of scares me. I mean, there's no good, clear walking area coming down New Bedford Road. If you're trying to walk a half a mile down that, as we'll probably discuss later on another topic, the traffic on New Bedford Road, they think it's the Indianapolis 500. I live up behind the community house, and when I come out wanting to go farther east, I come out at Winter Harbor and New Biddeford. And it is practically taking my life in my hands to try and edge out onto New Biddeford Road, because the speed, especially once they get past the speed bumps, which we'll discuss later, but the bottom line is, as you come up that road, the people really accelerate. And for people to be able to get out of their cars, take all the stuff out and walk down there, I think would be equally as unsafe, if not more so, than the possibility of the issue of the West End. The other thing I want to say about the West End possibilities, and I know it is uncomfortable in some ways, is the fact that we're proposing, and thank God we are now, and I think it's going to be acceptable to the town, that a certain percentage of these parking spaces be designated for local, taxpayers, residents here. I'm going to call it the residents parking stickers. And we have put basically all of the parking places at the West End would be residents only, which, if we do the signage properly, because I've often heard that one of the big problems down at the West End is you have people who cannot find parking spaces on the East End, so they go down the West End, often at a pretty quick clip, and even more so once they get to the far West End and find out there are no parking spaces there. So now they do the turnaround, which at least has a little turnaround area there, and come ripping back up the West End to hope maybe something has opened up at the East End. I'm hopeful that if the West End spaces are all designated residents only, and the proper signage is put up as you come down to the foot of Dyke Road that says no public parking at all to the West End, then hopefully that will alleviate to some extent that concern, which I certainly understand is a very valid concern. I can understand the concern too about having to do some degree of turnaround there, particularly you have a turnaround space at the far West End, but in the area closer to Dyke Road, I think that's an issue we still need to talk about, how to make that happen. But as Pat pointed out, people are doing that all the time on the East End too. So I understand it's an uncomfortable feeling, but the answer is, where are we going to put these places? And Tom, you mentioned being on Community House. I know, the streets back behind Kings Highway, Community House is not one place I would want to see any, because there's so much traffic. One day I was coming down Community House Road from our house, and there was a landscaper's truck parked there. And you know how many kids on bikes or walking are coming up to the Goose Rocks Beach Association, and some kid, just as I came level with that truck, popped right out from behind him. He was coming up on his bike, and I couldn't see him. So there's a lot of bike traffic, kid traffic, pedestrian traffic on the East End, just because we have so many more people coming here. So I hope we can consider the possibility that it's not going to be perfect for any of us, but.
I think one of the other things that we've discussed too is whatever we try to do, it would be let's do it for 1 year and then let's reassess. It's not as though this is cast in concrete forever, so. Sorry, Barry.
Yeah, let me just make a couple of comments. Kate, your points are well taken, and there's nothing I can disagree with. As the same as Pat and Art and Tom. I just find when we put things like the convenience of people walking relative to the safety of the children and grandchildren and the pedestrians and the joggers and the cyclists, I just feel we've got to put that first. And when we have a recognized expert tell us that what we're doing is less safe, I think we have to explore maybe moving it out a little bit down Kings Highway or down, not Kings Highway, what's it called, Dyke Road, or down New Biddeford Road, or near Binnacle Hill, or something like that. And I know those spots would only be used potentially as the last 10 spots that we're talking about here, right? People will park closer, and then on the 10 days a year when you have full capacity, full occupancy would be the only times. And I can tell you, those are no further away than when I go skiing in Sunday River, and I get there a little later in the morning, and I've gotta walk with my skis in the freezing weather, as opposed to this. So I just feel that the safety has got to come first. You know, one of the spots that was looked at was on the extreme west end, right in front of someone's driveway. I can't rationalize that in my mind to say, that's an accident waiting to happen. And if we see that, we should be smart enough to avoid it. So,
Barry, I'm not trying to emphasize convenience, particularly with regard to the New Bedford possibility. Believe me, I live half a mile, and I have to schlep half a mile down. So that's not my primary consideration. My primary consideration is the conditions on New Bedford in terms of people unloading on New Bedford and trying to walk down what is becoming a speedway.
look, I'm waiting to widen the road there. I don't know the property, I'm probably looking at the wrong person, but, you know, are there options there where they could create a little bit wider so people could pull in? I mean, I think these are things we have to look at. And the same thing on Dyke Road. Are there other opportunities, maybe not existing spots, but that we could create? We're not talking about 100 spots here, we're talking about 10 or 12, whatever it is.
8. John, do you have any thoughts? I know you've talked to Eric Lavelle from DPW in terms of the feasibility of some of these other spots on New Bedford.
On New Bedford, the situation there is that there is a 4-foot walking lane that was placed along New Bedford and along Dyke, and people use those lanes to get to and from the beach. We would have to lose that 4-foot lane if we put parking there.
Could we widen it? Could they
Of
pay?
course, you could, anything's possible with money, and I'd be pleased to have the contribution. And I don't know, those are people's lawns, we'd have to have adverse possession in order to no, we cannot just widen the road. You really can't.
But up, like, I'm thinking New Bedford Road, up near Binnacle Hill, I don't know who owns it's like a big vast field, just past.
It's
where
part
you-
of Binnacle Hill.
yeah. Just past.
There's a
where you go
drainage
by.
ditch right along the
Yeah,
road.
it's a
there.
drainage, that's
There's a
probably, that's
drainage ditch.
Pinnacle, it's Pinnacle property, that's the property right through here.
Okay.
I just have, I support the 8 spots on the west end if they're off the pavement.
They can't be off the pavement.
Because-
There's not enough space. It rolls off into.
I know it rolls down to the
It
road.
rolls
There
into
there
the-
were parking spots there till we raised the road.
Well,
Okay,
again,
Anybody who's lived here, they got removed because the
If we-
road got picked up, and if you know the rock catch basins, the water is supposed to go under the road and fill those up.
it's a rock sandwich,
So- Yeah,
so
so
the
my,
rock drains to the
my
park.
question,
because you can't fill it back up. You're answering your own question. You raise the road, and you've got a 45-degree bank there that drops down.
right, well, that was my question, is there any way to cover that and still allow for the drainage to happen under the road and get the parking off the pavement? That would be, I mean, Carol knows, John Croyder knows, anyone who grew up here as kids, they used to park all over all the side streets. People that have only been here a few years don't know that. But there were actually more cars parked here when we were kids than there is now, way more. So, does anyone know Jeffries Lane or Sandy Lane? They allowed parking on both sides of that road when I was a kid, both sides. So,
I think
we're
it
the
had-
same age,
it had
don't
a
say
crank-
that.
Had a crank in the front, but other
No,
than
I'm just
that-
saying, I know we need the spots. I was hoping we could do something like we did beyond Coyne's property on at the end of Kings Highway, heading towards Kings Lane. Stone and the fabric that keeps the marsh from getting, and to redo the shoulder on Dyke Road. Instead of losing 6 spots there, just fix the shoulder so it doesn't adversely affect the road, the marsh.
DEP will not let you touch that.
Well,
Have
we tried?
Yes, that's a non-starter. We've tried other times. That's a
Okay.
non-starter.
Okay.
But to look at, could you fill in, I'm not saying it's impossible. We could certainly have them look at it. We'd have to look
I
at
don't
the
know, but
impact and the
problem is
property
air,
and
the water
everything
comes
else.
up. The water, it's only happened a few times, but the water is supposed to come up through this. under the road, up through the stone, and then it kinda does flood those people's yards right next to the road. It's happened a few times.
Sure.
And if you filled it, obviously, it wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, you couldn't fill it, you still have to allow it, yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
would
you know
fill
what I'm
where
saying.
the outlets aren't, but that's possible. Right now, we cannot get off the road.
Okay, that's,
I have two questions,
Okay,
I guess.
yeah, go ahead.
One is whether the town has a right of way wider than the pavement.
Oh, yes.
All the streets.
All our parking's in the right of way.
Yeah.
That's what this map shows.
So
This,
I guess my question was on New Bedford Road, that right of way extends beyond the pavement on the other side as well.
it would, let's take a look. It would fill in the ditch, but, if you look here, there is the right of way. And there's some, but it's gonna be
you have it on the map.
barely enough. Yeah, that's the town right away. The cadaster's pretty good. So it's coming down. It gets very narrow when you get close to these old parking spaces. It's very narrow. And that's where these are not exactly placed. So they're a little further off, but not totally. They go right up against the edge.
Now, and so that was just one question, whether that's, if we were talking about filling things in or adding gravel or something, that would be an opportunity there that would not have people trying to, avoid stepping into the ditch on Kings Highway or into the
Well,
swamp.
they'd be stepping. I mean, if we didn't, that's straight down, right, that's the ditch right there. So basically, our right-of-way is where
At an angle.
where it's high.
Yeah.
But then it's dropped straight off into a ditch. So if you parked there, you'd have your wheel right on the ditch, you opened your door, you'd be down 3 feet. It just doesn't make sense, guys.
And my other question was whether, if there is parking at the west end, is it possible to, thinking about my days a long time ago as a school crossing guard, where my job was to help pedestrians and bicyclists navigate their way to and from school. But can we assign some of the, whatever we call those, safety officers or citizen, whatever, but people to basically help slow traffic and help people get past?
The presence of those cars are gonna slow traffic. That's the friction that you get whenever you have parking. So that is gonna make that much less of a straight run right away. And it's only, and the other thing that concerns me about New Bedford is the speed. I'm sure our engineer would tell us the amount of damage with every 10 miles increase in speed is nonlinear.
Exponential, right?
Yeah, it's exponential. And, people are going 20, 25 versus 35, 40. It's a heck of a difference.
Okay, come on up.
Fred Stafford, 892 Kings Highway. John, I have a question for you. It was John, yes? You?
Tom.
Oh, Tom, I'm sorry. I would assume what you've determined of those new 8 spots would be equally bad on the east end. I mean,
So, if I may just,
Okay.
not necessarily, it's really the speed difference. On the east side, if you go between Dyke Road and New Bedford Road, the speeds are dramatically lower than they are to the west. And it's really that difference in speed that I think is determinative. And certainly, there are 3-point turns that occur on the east end, but they're occurring in a traffic situation that is drastically slower than on the west end, where we have a speed sign there, and we have data from the speed sign that indicates that people are traveling at high rates of speed, and that's really the difficulty there.
okay, well, here's $20, because that was exactly what I wanted to hear. I think any place we have parking spaces
Gonna slow
on
the
these roads that are narrow, it's a problem. Because I think the risk, like Pat mentioned about people unloading their cars, or maybe it was you, Kate, that, they unload their cars at the east end and then they walk in the street. And there are other people already walking in the street where the sidewalk is. I don't know, a lot of people just don't like the sidewalk or whatever, but I think the real issue here is one of controlling the speed. I think if we could, I know we haven't been very successful at it, but if there are a way to control the speed, then you certainly, by reducing the speed of the vehicles, you're gonna reduce the hazard, right? Because wherever everybody's parked, it's a hazard. on the beach, because it's narrow. Where I live, it's just on the corner, if you're coming from Dyke Road, it's just on the corner leading to the tides. And I can't tell how many times I see people just flying in there, and you know they're gonna be people, doors open, you know, kids in the street and all, and you know, I'm shocked nobody's been run over yet, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know if they still have them, and I always hated them, but speed cameras?
We can't,
We can't?
Can't do them in Maine.
state law.
Oh, state law
State of
prohibits them?
Maine.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's some way we can, like somebody had suggested, the community service officers, if there's something they can do, I know they're not real police, but if there's a way to bring the speed down, I think you automatically reduce the hazard.
Maybe we could, I could look at fines doubled. I don't know if we can double, we set fines. I don't know, maybe speed fines could be raised on the beach area. It's one thing we could certainly look at. People respond to money,
Yeah,
respond to their pocketbook.
but how often do people even ever get written up on the beach? I
Well-
don't see police there that,
Yeah.
we have such a limited police force.
You know, you just
You
do, they get there as often as they can.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They're not, it's like you need somebody there every day to keep this, you know, to keep it down. But anyway, I think that if we could keep the speeds down,
I have one more comment.
It's okay.
Will the parking, cars being parked there slow people down naturally?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe, I don't want to speak out of the traffic, but I think that's a pretty well-known thing. It's called friction. You get that visual friction that slows down a bit.
John, the other thing that, again, I'm not part of the public safety, and I'm certainly not an expert at any kind, but I did notice in other places where, in the middle of crosswalks, which we have many painted across, certainly on the east end, and there's no reason we couldn't put similar signs. There are those signs that say, in the middle of them, that say yield to pedestrians in crosswalks, that are like,
Right.
and it's, again, since what we're apparently agreeing to is the fact that as you narrow something, whether it's parked cars or something else, that kind of forces people to slow down a bit, whether it's on the east end or putting something similar on the west end, at least the sign saying yield at various points. I'm just throwing that out. I know nothing about it, but I've noticed it in other places, and it does tend to slow me down or slow other people down.
I just want to note that Kate asked for more signs at Goose Rock.
I know, and I want the sign saying no public parking at the west end. I'm like,
That we
yay, let's do
definitely need to
signs.
have. And there'll be one that's also going to be resident-only parking.
Oh, on the east
Yeah,
gate.
east of
Yeah.
Jeffries.
Right,
So that Kings, I don't know if it's Kings Lane or still Kings Highway there, but at any rate,
Beyond the bridge,
no,
Yeah, beyond the-
before the bridge. That there are
Oh,
three
that's right.
spots there.
Yeah.
which are
So
also unsafe.
let's go, oh yeah, those spots aren't so hot either.
They're all in.
You know, guys, there's nothing safe
I know.
about parking at Goose Rocks Beach.
or
That is
walking
an
sometimes.
oxymoron.
It's true.
So these 10 spots, so here's New Bedford. So these three just now east of Jeffries, there's Jeffries. And then the 7 that are along Kings Lane here.
And those three also block Loring's driveway.
From which
That
drive?
Right where your pointer is.
There's a
right there.
drive right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drive right there,
Yeah.
right where your pointer is.
Yep.
Well, I think on the east end, a lot of houses' driveways are right across from parked cars, so
Yeah.
we got that problem everywhere.
Right, but
Yeah.
at least there, you've got a sidewalk.
Welcome to parking at
You've got to
Goose
be careful
Rocks.
where-
Yeah, but sidewalk doesn't help you when you're trying to turn out of your driveway. The street's still narrow.
No, but people don't have a place to go. Like, I'm thinking of the spot that they've got at the west end. There's no, you've got the narrowest part of Kings Highway there, and you've got no sidewalk.
So you're saying trying to back out of your driveway?
It
Is
can't-
impacted.
I mean, you're asking for an accident, so I'm saying, like, that to me is just
Okay.
patently unsafe.
Mhm.
So that's what I worry about.
I'd like to speak, please.
Yeah, come on up.
Sure. So,
Yeah,
Can you
could you
identify
identify-
Introduce
yeah,
yourself.
Matt Jones, I'm at 773 Kings Highway.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you folks a perspective of somebody where you're proposing putting those spots, because I live right there. I live right there. Okay, let's rewind this though, about 10 to 15 years ago. The road was lowered, I think, Bill, you might have brought it up. The road was lowered, those spots were there before. The spots were removed when the road was raised due to the safety issues, okay? So now you're proposing putting those same spots back So what happened to the safety issue now? Are we ignoring that? Did the safety issue change from 10 years ago? What happened here? So also, to everybody, to your perspective, Art's perspective, and the safety issue, that I live this every day. It took me $250,000 recently redoing my house, keeping people turning around in my driveway. And what happens is, you get a lot of people coming in from out of state, they're getting all flustered, they can't find a parking space, they start turning around in people's driveways. I lived it up to about 6 months ago. People get upset, they get angry, they start turning around, and everybody converges in that area of Dyke Road because the general store is right there. Everybody's converging in that area, coming in all directions. You've got bikers, you've got walkers, you've got people with dogs, and keep in mind, you guys got rid of the whole dog walking thing years ago during the peak time of the beach. So now, people can't walk their dogs on the beach during that time, so now you're creating more pedestrian traffic at a peak time. So everybody's converging there, and everybody's on there. So you've got an enormous amount of people, you've got an enormous amount of traffic that is right there. People coming down, they can't find a parking spot, what are they gonna do? They're gonna turn around in people's driveways, they're gonna get angry. I can't tell you how many times my dogs and my kids almost got hit because of angry people turning around in people's driveways. On top of that, you've got these spaces right here. What's gonna happen with these driveways? I think, Bill, you might have brought it, or Barry, you might have brought it up. People turning around, people backing out. What happens about these huge trucks, these pickup trucks that are raised up? People can't see, you're turning this thing into a one-lane road. What happens to fire engines that need to come down the road? Ambulances, car doors that are open. And then you're proposing putting them on our side. I spent a lot of money on my house. I spent an enormous amount of money, and a lot of people did spend a lot of money on their houses on that side. Somebody steps out of their car, they fall. Who's paying for that liability? What happens? Who's paying for that? Are you guys paying for that? Who's paying for that liability if somebody falls and sues me because they fell in a ditch? Who's paying for that? I want to know. And while I can appreciate wanting to make sure that we keep the Massachusetts people from walking a half a mile, frankly, it's not our problem. It's not our problem. It's really not. If the people need to walk, they need to walk. And here's the solution. This is not solving the problem. Okay, this doesn't solve the parking problem. Never, it won't. If you guys really want to solve the problem, there's a hotel at the end of Dyke Road, right at the corner of Mills Road and Dyke Road, unused, been vacant for how long? There is an enormous amount of parking up there. We already have the walkway going down Dyke Road to the beach. It already exists. There's an enormous amount of parking at that hotel. You could get rid of these spaces. You could get rid of the spaces along Dyke Road that you guys don't want, and have people park up there. Granted, it's a walk. You want to come to the beach? That's the price you pay. Charge the people. Charge them up there. Work out a deal with the hotel. What are we missing here? The town gets money, work out a deal with the hotel. What are we doing with that land? There's an enormous amount of parking spaces over there. That solves the problem. That is solving the problem. This is not solving the problem. This is only making the problem worse. Cars coming down, people getting upset, people turning around in people's driveways. And I got news for you guys. If this proceeds, I have the backing of the houses along that area that there will be legal action. I'm gonna tell you guys that right now. I have the Satyrs, I have the people behind me, I have the O'Connells. This is not gonna go away lightly, because this is a safety issue. Like, I just wanna know what happened to the safety issue 10 years ago? What, it just disappeared when it went away? Where'd it go? There was a safety issue before, now there's not? Since when?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak?
We do have two hands raised.
Oh, wait a minute, Pam, you have somebody here too.
Oh, I'm sorry, come on up. We're gonna do this one first and then,
I'll only
No.
take two
You
seconds.
do
Okay,
need
but
to go,
please.
thanks.
just identify yourself and then we're happy to hear what you have to say.
My name is Betty Casey. I live at 15 New Bedford Road. And I am here to plead, please do not take the speed bumps away.
Actually, that's
Let's
coming
just-
up.
Living,
Can we
living,
wait on that? We have, that's an agenda item that comes a
yeah,
little bit
I
later.
know, I understand. But you're talking about the speed on the road.
Mhm.
Okay, I live there year-round. I have lived on New Bedford Road for 88 years. My grandparents bought the original property. And it has always been a problem. I don't know how you solve it, but it seems to get worse every year. The parking, the speed, everything. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
okay, thank you. Kate, did you have something? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay,
I
No.
did.
all right,
Carol,
go ahead.
you go.
In medicine, we say, do no harm. For this to go forward, I personally believe that the parking committee and the safety committee have to agree. You know, and not only that, the police department has to agree, the fire department has to agree, and Public Works has to agree. Otherwise, I don't think we have a good plan, and we'd be better to do nothing. I mean, it's a mess, no question about it, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of doing nothing. So we are
Why is
held
that?
to our 173 parking spaces by the beach use agreement.
But-
So those spaces need to be available. So if we're losing them, which we have to remove them off of Dyke.
Okay.
So, I mean, but that's what I say, do nothing. I agree with you, and the police department and the public works department agree with these spots.
Okay?
So that's where we are
And
at this
fire
point.
department.
But
Oh, I didn't ask the fire department, but I don't know why they wouldn't, to be honest with you. I don't see this impacting their efforts.
The other thing is, why don't we do something about electric bikes and bikes? If you want to see a lot of increase in motor vehicle type, we've had more electric bikes this past year than I've ever seen, and I don't think they're going to go away.
No, it's gonna grow exponentially.
I think so too. And I think that needs to be part of the solution also.
Okay, all right, thank
And
you.
one more
I
thing.
think Carol
Wait a
has
second,
an
Carol.
excellent idea, that if we can get the parking and the safety committees to come up with a solution that we can live with, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I-
okay, wait, sorry, Carol, you had something?
Yeah, so bikes and the e-bikes, and I know I was sort of shot down on compact car spaces, but if we have a space that's near a driveway that's too big, I know in the center of town, in Kennebunkport, they have a parking space for only a compact car, which I don't know how many feet it takes off a space or not, I don't know, but that might help you keep a space that you want.
Okay, all right, wait,
That's
let's
it.
just go to Zoom, I know there were two people waiting there, and then,
Okay, first we have Juliana. You can speak when you unmute yourself.
Julianne Ambrose, Lake Road. I just wanted to thank the committee for listening to the Department of Public Works around getting those parking spaces off of Dyke Road. I think it's important for the marsh, but I also think it's crucial for the flooding. 2 years ago, that flooding was so severe and on Dyke Road, and anybody who lived through that would realize, trying to keep that marsh grass up and trying to do anything to reduce flooding just is crucial at this point to protect property. So I thank you for that. And again, don't know what the solution is. I don't know that I would assume probably the hotel that gentleman was referring to, maybe in litigation or that kind of thing. I don't know whether, the gentleman who owns the
We lose her?
I wonder in terms of, I wonder about parking is that I have often seen people who have taken up 2 parking spaces to protect what I guess they consider their their cars need 2 spaces so they don't have anyone near them. And I know that doesn't, take care of the 173, but it certainly is part of the parking issue. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Is there someone else on Zoom as well?
Yes.
Cliff, you can speak.
Thank you. Cliff Mix, 797 Kings Highway. I could not agree more with what Mr. Jones just said. I am on the east side of that intersection of Dyke Road. First driveway on the right. Excuse me. And the 3 spots you're proposing near my property and my neighbor next door at 803 are going to block my view coming out of my driveway. That stretch of Kings Highway is a straightaway. When people turn left on Dyke Road, that's a straightaway, and they punch it. I've been out there trimming my bushes, and I practically get clipped every time I do it. You've got bicycles, you got e-bicycles, you got kids on strollers, you got kids on bikes, you got wagons, and nobody uses the sidewalk. They're walking on both sides of the street. So you put those 3 spaces there, you're going to have people walking down the middle of the road. The same is true with cars coming in the opposite direction. When they hit about where the old Anchorage guest house used to be, if they're heading west towards Dyke Road, they hit the gas and fly. That is a straightaway. And unless you guys do something about the speed, I agree with Matt. This is not a solution. It's going to create more problems. And talk about people turning around in driveways. My neighbor and I park our cars parallel to the end of our driveways to block our driveways. We shouldn't have to do that. So, anyway, I've said my piece. I did put this in an email to you guys. I don't know if you got it. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Come on up. Is that it on Zoom? I'm sorry, I thought you.
Yes.
She's fantastic.
Mary Ellen LeMay, 664 Kings Highway. Thank you for having a hearing on this topic, and it's been very interesting to listen to probably what could be a page and a half of factors that have changed at Goose Rocks Beach in the last decade or 15 years. And it seems like all of this anxiety and battle is because we're chasing a number. And that number, 173, was established. When was the beach agreement signed? A decade ago?
2013.
Okay, so more than a decade ago. And in that time, our beach has changed dramatically. So I don't understand why we can't, as a town, we've seen the safety impact. Safety has declined significantly in our area. Why can't we, as a town, say, we've evaluated this for over a decade, we'd like to appeal that number. That's an artificial, it's a man-made number, I don't know where it came from, some legal, but it's not, we've reached our capacity. I mean, can we use that, just say we've maxed out, we've reached our capacity for parking in this community. We would like to reduce that from 173 to 163, and then we can get on with our lives and leave the parking as it is now and not add these other spaces. It's truly, at a higher level, we're looking at a number that we're chasing that was established a while ago. So I don't know what the answer would be for that, but if our town attorney can, if there's an appeal process for that beach agreement, or we can go on to a moratorium by not adding these 10 spots until, we negotiate that number down, I would suggest that that might be an option to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think at this point, I would like to make the suggestion that the parking group and the public safety group go back to square zero and see where we can come back with something that is more acceptable on a broader basis. I think, does that sound reasonable to people at this point?
I would just stress that we need to come to that conclusion on the 1st of April. I didn't pick that day, logically, but that's because we need time to prepare to paint. Yep.
April Fools.
April Fools.
Okay, all right. Well, our next meeting is in March, so hopefully we can convene between now and then it'll be on the agenda for March. That needs to happen.
It has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. We had working group reports. Holly, are you there in terms of communications? I don't know whether you had anything you wanted to share with us.
I was here, but I think she left.
Okay, all right.
I'm looking for her, I don't see her. I don't see her.
Okay, natural resources, Bill?
The only thing I have is, I talked to John about it, that, we approved, the money.
Can you
for-
speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry, we approved the money for a dumpster, stake and twine, we do the beach cleanup and the staking of the dunes. And we as a committee approved it, but did that ever get passed on to the town? John seems to think that it's a small enough amount that it doesn't have to be, but, I know last year, I contacted Lori and they did approve it in a warrant, so I just wanna make sure if I need to do that again,
Well,
I
yeah,
do that.
it needs to get approved in a warrant when it's spent, but as far as allocating
Got
it, that's the difference of when that needs to be allocated.
Okay.
I don't think it's large enough to get into the budget process,
Okay.
unlike the 14,000 that we're doing for the speed signs for Goose Rocks, which we're gonna talk about in a minute.
Got it.
But it does need to be approved by the select board and then allocated from the funds. Yep.
Great.
So I think if you just make a request, like at the next meeting, when you have a sense of what you need,
Okay.
that should be good. And then, I think the other thing that just is, we need a motion in terms of approving the $1,000 for the Southern Maine Beach profile monitoring, so I just need a motion on that, and then a second, we can vote on it.
You wanna do that now?
Sure.
Okay, I move that we allocate $1,000 out of the beach fund for the beach profiling that's been going on for a long time now, so.
Yeah, no, they've got like 20-plus years of
Yeah,
data.
and
so-
it's
okay.
important, so.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye, okay, great.
And the only other thing I had was the kayaks and all but one rubber boat have disappeared from the beach, so.
Okay, thank you.
Just because we talked about it,
Well done.
I didn't
Well
do
done.
anything.
Well, you talked about
I'll
it.
take
talked
the
about.
pictures and send it out in constant contact, so
Yeah.
hopefully that helps as well. Okay, so on to public safety, Chaz, I think we've
Again.
stolen a little bit of your thunder, but please,
That's okay.
Go
No,
ahead.
we, New Bedford Road's been on the agenda for a while. At our meeting in the Goose Rocks Firehouse, there were several members of the community there who were incredibly concerned about the speeding, particularly on New Bedford Road. And so the safety committee met several times in the intermeeting time. And we did a little research and came up with some recommendations that we shared with the committee recently. But basically, the proposal that's on the table somewhere, I'm not sure what table it's on, but is to eliminate the speed bumps this summer on New Bedford Road. There are two that have been there the last several years. One close to Kings Highway and one at the end of the clearing on your way to Route 9. And so we were looking at that in particular. And our background doing that, of course, was that we'd had the very helpful support of the Chief Simeone to get access to data from the existing speed signs on Dyke Road and on the west end of Kings Highway that let us look at what are drivers actually doing on the streets in Goose Rocks. And that formed the basis of a whole set of recommendations that we made, I guess last summer, I'm not quite sure when they were. But when the speed on the New Bedford Road issue came up, we have zero data. We have anecdotal data, we have our own eyes and experience. But so as we looked at the options for doing things, we also consulted the Maine Department of Transportation has an excellent, for those of you who are interested in this, 60-page document on traffic calming measures that includes an incredible array of traffic slowing things, among which are speed bumps, which they refer to as vertical obstacles as opposed to visual obstacles, like marking on the roads and or signs and or parking or curb bump outs or crosswalks. And so there's a whole menu of useful things to be done. But our view was that disarming completely and letting the good times roll on New Bedford Road was not a good policy to recommend at this point. And so we wanted to have, suggest that we use because there is money, thank you, in the capital improvement budget, $14,000 for the speed signs, that we allocate 2 of those to New Bedford Road this coming summer, 1 outbound, 1 inbound, and, and collect some data on what's actually happening. I know from having talked to people who live on New Bedford Road that it's, from their perspective, a speedway. And so, so that's our main recommendation. In addition, though, in the note that we put together for the committee, there was a bunch of other issues that we think, whether or not the speed bumps are taken out, that are worth doing. Better signage, particularly at the incoming end of the road, telling people this is a beach, slow the hell down, put flashing lights around it, right at 20 miles an hour on the pavement. A whole range of things we could do. Mark the pedestrian and bike lanes more clearly and put the little flexible bollards up, something that creates the appearance of a slower highway. The speed bumps have had good effect. The town put them up for a reason, because there was speeding. But we know that anecdotally that people still speed between the speed bumps. And so our suggestion is to not do that this summer, conceivably do it next summer if we think the data supports it. But I'm not hopeful that will be the case. And if that's not the case and we still want to get rid of the speed bumps, then there's a whole set of other things that I think we need to be thinking about. But our working group thought it was best to recommend delaying a year on removing the speed bumps. And I've talked to some neighbors from down that way, and I just it sort of reinforced our thinking. None of us live on New Bedford Road on the working group, but and I know there's a lot of momentum to remove them. They are a pain in the neck. They slow all of us down, but that's what they're there for.
They are also, because of their temporary nature, they
Yes.
are tearing up the roadbed. And this was a concern from our public work folks. I know the sentiment of the board, and it's why we were able to get these 4 cameras in the capital program, is to indeed set those up, as you would say, and to figure out how to best do that. Collect the data that we can then respond to in the next season. But the speed bumps, by choice of the board, is to remove them. So, as you know, that's where it is. The select board, yeah, that's where it's sitting in the select board now. But we're free to make any suggestion we wish.
Okay. But has the damage been done already, so keeping them there another year won't make any difference?
That would totally tear it up. We'd have to move them and start tearing up a different piece of road.
That's what they've done already.
They wouldn't sit, yeah, so we're just keep.
Can I just say, so some people may not know that the signs that have been approved in the budget are like what we have heading down towards the west end and heading on Dyke Road into the beach. There's gonna be one leaving the beach on New Bedford Road and one coming in. So those are the flashing signs that tell you when you're speeding and tell you to slow down. But we now know from the police department that we can get the data from those signs on how many people are exceeding the speed and by how much. So this is what they were talking about at time of day and all that stuff. So this is what they're, just so people understand what we're talking about.
So is it because of the nature?
Can you come on up, please? I'm sorry.
So is the speed bump, is it because of the rubber that those?
Can you
wait
I don't
till
mean to
you-
be difficult, can you just come, because we've got people on Zoom,
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
sure.
can hear you.
So is the speed bumps, is it because it's rubber and they're those big ones?
It's the bolts in
Is
the
that
road.
what's tearing up the roadbed?
My understanding, and I don't know for sure, the fact is that bed is being torn up. And I believe the reason is that they are pinned into the ground. That's the only thing that's holding them. When especially larger vehicles hit them, it transfers all that torque down to the pavement.
They have a metal
And
sleeve down
rips up
in the
the
road, and
pavement.
then they put
Totally get it, I totally could see the rubber. So when you have a speed bump, why not make it out of the asphalt? Because a lot of times when you go over
Because that's not temporary. The intent of these was to be temporary, to be removed at the end of each season.
maybe it should be permanent.
Well,
I
that's,
think
that's
it's
a
an issue
thought.
with the snow removal, that's part of the challenge.
That's a
If you-
thought. Talk to the people that live on New Bedford Road if they want to permanently be going over bumps, but that's all right.
When you read the 60-page Maine Department of Transportation traffic calming book, as I know you all will, there's 5 or 6 different kinds of speed bumps, speed tables, speed cushions, other sorts of vertical things, but they are an inconvenience. But, you know, you want them to slow traffic down, you want them to accommodate emergency vehicles, snow plows,
Right.
other sorts of things. And so the idea of a seasonal one, if it can be accommodated, was a reasonable
Yeah.
compromise when you did it, I think.
Yeah, and snow plows is a big reason.
Yeah.
That's another, we're not down south. But it's, people, especially if they're anxious to get to the beach, they're gonna speed up between those speed bumps. What the hell, speed bump ain't gonna slow them down? I mean, it's,
Momentarily.
yeah.
But the other issue
Just
that I
piss 'em
didn't
off.
mention earlier is the fact that enforcement is key here. You know, so whether it's signage or speed bumps or markings on the pavement, if you know you've not seen a policeman there in your entire adult life, it's not gonna slow you down a bit.
That's right.
And so, you know, and the department has its own challenges in terms of, you know, there's so very few officers available at a particular time of day. I think Chief told me sometimes he only has 2 officers on patrol
Usually, that's the usual.
for the whole town. And so parking somebody for the afternoon on any part of Goose Rocks comes at a cost or a risk. But again, you know, so the idea is that what we're proposing to this group is that we urge the town to delay if they would, but also to collect that data, but look at a range of other traffic calming measures. Because if they're not slowing it down between the speed bumps, we're not doing enough as it is.
Timothy Friedel, I live at 20 New Bedford Road, and I've lived there long enough that, you know, I do see a difference in terms of the speeds. You know, seasonally, when the speed bumps come in, it does make a huge difference. And I agree, you know, that people slow down for the speed bumps and then they speed up. So I think, you know, the goal should be, this doesn't seem to me to be a cost issue. So for whatever it's doing for the road, if it's slowing people down, then I would be in favor of paying for this, you know, the speed bump. And so this was mentioned earlier, but the possibility of doing damage is the square of velocity. So if you go from 20 miles to 30 miles an hour, you're more than doubling the ability for that vehicle to do damage. So I do like the idea of putting these lights in and see what the speeds are and coming up with some solution that will slow people down, because when you have the parking alongside the road and people are coming from the beach and going to the beach, and their kids and dogs, and it's pretty much a zoo there, and all it takes is one person to, you know, run into a family, and then you have a design, you know, there's no cost you can put to that. So I'm in favor of whatever can slow people down, and you know, it's not a big inconvenience to go over a couple speed bumps, you know, when you're coming off of Route 9 and going to the beach. So so I would be an advocate of leaving the speed bumps there for a year, measuring what we can do to slow people down. If it's something different than speed bumps, I'm all in favor of that. But I think it's really crucial to you do everything, especially during the summer months when the road is smaller because you have cars parked, to protect people, and that should be job one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, just one thing. I think that, I love the idea of the signs that flash and tell you what your speed is doing. I think there are 2 ways of reaction to that. Me, the absent-minded person who has been coming 55 miles an hour down Route 9 and turns onto Dyke Road and suddenly goes, oh my God, I'm in a 35 or 30, whatever it is at that upper end, and suddenly I'm slamming the brakes on. Then there are the other people who are just gonna say, and do what they want. And unfortunately, we have more and more of those here. So I fully support the speed signs and the information gathering. But I do agree, and I respect the town DPW's concerns about the road. I know we put in speed bumps on our little back, the unpaved roads. They're unpaved, but they still have, they're still screwed down in. We put them out in the, about April or May, and we take them back in October. And you might say, well, what do you need it back up there? Well, those roads turn into the third major access point to the beach, and the traffic on those roads expands exponentially. Because I sit right at the corner there, and I one day sit there, I'm gonna have a clicker and see how many people we have coming by. So I would prefer that I agree with Chaz, I wish we could, the town could leave them in for one more year in one way while they're gathering the information. I hope that once the information is gathered and we have solid information about the speeding that's going on, that the town will be willing to, because I do think they make a difference. Yes, people are going to speed up, and at the upper end of New Bedford, which is where I'm often coming out since I live up that way and it's the way to get out, one way to get out to, it is very dangerous trying to merge onto New Bedford because the speed that people are coming up. And by the way, one other thing add into, there's a lot of bushes there that are very leafy in the summer, and I don't have a good line of sight. I've asked the town if they would put in a mirror up on that, but that's an aside. I do think that the speed is a real issue on that road, and I'm hoping that if there are other options we can come up with, great, but I keep thinking that there has to be some mechanism, some form of speed slowing, speed bump or whatever, that would work. Maybe, that we could still make work, given because there are other places that have paved roads and still have some form of speed slowing something in the road, so. Okay, is there anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we have two hands.
Okay.
David, you can speak.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening. My name's Dave Hofsis. I live on 18 New Bedford Road, and I've been a resident for 3 years, and I spend about 5 months of the year on New Bedford Road. And I have just a couple of thoughts regarding the concern about damaging the roads. I do a fair amount of construction work, and I suspect there's a pretty straightforward solution where the anchors are currently drilled into the asphalt. It would be quite easy to have a permanent concrete strip placed perpendicular across the road at those anchor points, and that would eliminate any future damage to the road, and the speed bumps could be easily removed and easily reinstalled with each season. So I think that's something that could be looked at, and we could quickly find a solution that eliminates that concern. I'm also frankly in favor, the speed bumps are most inconvenient for the people that are speeding. And so I'm less concerned about making their life inconvenient, particularly since I have 2 kids, 4 grandkids that are spending more and more time at 18 New Bedford Road. So I have to believe, although I don't have any evidence, that there are many, many roads throughout New England that have permanent speed bumps that were discussed earlier. So that those towns like ours get snow, and the folks that operate those snow plows have the experience and common sense to know how to properly clear the road without damaging a permanent speed bump. So I'm not sure that having a permanent speed bump isn't in fact a better solution. And I would also argue that, for those that are concerned that, people are only slowing down when they approach a speed bump and they speed up in between, that's a pretty long stretch between the bridge at Goose Creek and the other speed bump. If we discover that speed bumps work, and I think we will, then let's add another one. And again, all we're going to do is inconvenience the people who are speeding, and that's a small price to pay for all of the rest of us who are not speeding and who happen to live on New Bedford Road. So I would just end by saying I am very, very much against removing the speed bumps and in favor of doing either making a permanent speed bump, as I described, or another anchoring solution that eliminates the ongoing damage to the street. And I would also be very much in favor of evaluating the idea of putting in an additional speed bump so that when we get the speed signs that I think are a wonderful idea, it's going to be really important where those signs get positioned, and that will help us determine, in fact, how much people are speeding in between.
Oops. Lost you.
Yeah, yes, not at a speed bump, exactly
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Or right before it, yeah, we lost him, but
We got it.
it was
yeah.
they were
I
good
think-
points,
yeah, no,
thank you
thank
for
you.
that, for all of those points. I'm sorry we lost you.
Was there a second person, or was that it?
Yes, there is. We have Lee. Lee, you can speak.
I have to unmute myself. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Lee Griswold, and my family has owned the property at 26 New Bedford Road since 1959. Seen a lot of things happen over the course of the years. And indeed, New Bedford Road, we would affectionately call it the second Beech Ridge Speedway because of the speeding to and from Route 9. And I realize that's tongue in cheek, but I have been concerned over the past couple of decades, especially with my 5 grandkids, that somebody's going to get hit. I do think that the speed bumps, the temporary speed bumps, which otherwise are called calming devices, should remain, at least for this year. I think collecting data to determine what the speeds are between the speed bumps is meritorious, something that should be pursued. I agree with David, the previous gentleman, that a third speed bump, albeit temporary, should be something that should be considered. And Kate, I agree with your comments that you made. And I'm sorry, the gentleman that led the discussion, I missed your name too, but I trust you may be the chairman of the group. I sense that you feel that taking away the speed bumps at this juncture does not make sense. And certainly not exclusively because the folks at the road department have issue with it. So I would be supportive of keeping the temporary speed bumps, potentially adding a third in the middle of that straight stretch, and certainly gathering data is a good cogent way to determine the path forward. So I thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
No.
Okay, that's great. Thank you all for your comments. Chaz, did you want to?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to at this juncture. There's been a lot of interesting stuff discussed here this evening and some ideas, but I'd like to suggest that we, and despite whatever the town may have already decided and voted upon to do, recommend that the town reconsider and delay taking the speed bumps away this summer. And in the interim, collect data, as we've described, and actively look at the rest of the speed calming measures that we've discussed in our note, and or dive into the full 60-page main opus. Because as we've heard around the room and online, this is not a new problem, it's a big problem, it's longstanding, and what we've done doesn't seem to have been fully effective yet. And I think it was Tom suggested, but the data for these things doesn't come up gradually, it comes in big accidents. And so, if we can collect the speed data before there are accidents, then we can sort out what to do. I like the idea that someone raised about the concrete table that lets you have a permanent place to anchor something.
That was good.
And there may be others like that, that if we have time and data to support, we could do, that would make more sense beginning in the summer of 2027. So that's my motion,
Okay.
long-winded as that was.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it, and I I have to say that I have great respect for the town's thoughts on this, but experiencing it myself and the work that the public safety, I have to at least go on record as saying, supporting this motion and saying, I think that, I'd like to get it on record that I would prefer to go that way, even though there are issues for the town.
Okay. Any other discussion on the committee? Okay. How about we vote? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed?
Abstention.
Okay, thank you. All right, I know we've been here for a little bit. Is there any other new business that the committee would like to put on the agenda for future meetings or anything like that that we haven't touched on?
I have a question though. What
Yes.
other information can these signs gather besides data and speed? Can they take a picture of a license
Time of
plate?
day, no
No, we
pictures.
can't do pictures.
You can't do any
No.
It's
pictures?
against the law in Maine.
Okay.
I live in Washington DC, and there are two main roads going north from my house, Wisconsin Avenue and Connecticut Avenue, and they both have speed cameras.
Cameras.
Yeah.
And they take my money regularly,
$40. I've paid several.
but
Yes.
they do slow traffic.
Yes, they do.
Reduce the speed from 35 to 30, and people go 30 on that
Oh,
highway
that's
now.
phenomenal.
And I loved it when we
They
were
work.
traveling in Germany. They have no qualms about taking a picture, and the next thing you get is the ticket that shows up.
That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, but apparently privacy issues or whatever here.
Okay.
But I want to thank people who took time to come to this meeting
Yeah,
tonight.
Thank
you.
everybody.
Everybody.
And also, and my hardworking committee members, or
Yeah.
working group members.
Thank you. Okay, the next meeting that we have scheduled is March 16th. It's another hybrid meeting, same time, same place. So
March 6th.
I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Amen.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.